Shalom and welcome. Last time we came to an end in the Torah at the morning of a second day. And then creation keeps going through a third day, a fourth day, a fifth day, and a sixth day, creating the sun and the moon and vegetables on day three. Then we have creeping things and swarming things and things of the sea, animals on the land, and everything that we need to survive. And of course, humankind on the sixth day in the form of Adam. And the sixth day is described as being very good, not in opposition to being very bad, although some of it looks a little bad today. But really, in terms that the entire world was now created in its final intended form, and each aspect of the creation was in harmony with the whole. And so that all of creation, that's including us, were placed in an environment where we could prosper and thrive and grow, and more importantly, actually achieve the purpose for which we were created for. And then we get to this seventh day, which is a rather special day and separated out. So let me just reach across for this giant tome of Torah and just read a little bit about this seventh day. And in chapter 2:1 it says, "Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all their array. By the seventh day God completed his work which he had done, and he abstained on the seventh day from all his work which he had done." And in the Hebrew it said, "Mikol ma'alachto asher asa, va'yevarech Elohim et yom hashvi'i, va'yechadesh oto kivo, Shabbat mikol malachto, asher bara Elohim la'asot." And God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because on it he abstained from all his work which God created to make. In my translation there it said God abstained from all his work, which is a much better translation, I think, than he rested from his work on day seventh, because obviously I don't think God really needs to rest. So what was that all about? God didn't return to what he was doing before, because it tells us, and we've mentioned this before, that he now sends his life-giving energy to creation continuously, daily. And so we get another mention of days, and we've had 7 of them. And of course, this has caused some controversy. So let's have a look at maybe how we can maybe harmonize some of those different views. And the first level of interpretation, Rabbi Akiva tells us in the Torah, was to look at the literal meaning. And so we look at it literally, that creation is 7 days old. Now, obviously, science has some other ideas about that, and has produced what it calls evidence to prove that creation is a lot older than that. And they're very opposing views and are really not worth a whole lot of effort in discussing them or getting to arguments about that, because really, even if we could understand it, it wouldn't clothe the naked or feed anybody that's hungry or sort out the problems of a homeless person. But it's worth looking at, I think, from another point of view, in that, if we have a look at creation, and we've discussed this before, that in the upper world and the highest most world of Atzilut, in the undiminished creative light energy of Hashem, there is no constriction on time and space. And so really the very beginnings, they can be as old as you really want to make them. It's only after that do we get this idea of these days. Now, if we have a look at what we normally think Tanakh and the Torah in particular is, we have sort of thought in our heads, I think, that it's a book by humanity about God. But what happens if we reverse that idea and say that the Torah, and indeed the Tanakh, is a book by God about humankind? And then we can have a look at this in a slightly different light. Because if we're looking down through the many diminishments for the lower world of Asiya, that we inhabit, then that diminishment is not a bad thing, but the divine light energy is filtered out so that we can survive in the reality of creation. And yes, we are confined by time and space, but that's how it was supposed to be. It's so that we can live and prosper and fulfill our purpose that Hashem has for us on the earth. And so, from God's perspective, I'm sure the universe is as old as say you want to make it. But for our benefit, it is actually reduced down to 7 days. So let's have a look at this practically. I've learned that scientists believe that the Earth is 13.8 billion, or so, creation really is 13.8 billion years old, which is a long time. I have some argument about their measurement techniques. If we start with the Big Bang, they're trying to measure the rate of expansion of the universe, and I think they reverse that to get back to this 13.8 billion. There's another measure by taking the sun and seeing how much hydrogen has been converted into helium. And I can find some flaws in that, really, and perhaps even halve the age of their idea of how old creation is. But I don't want to get in that because there really is no purpose. So I'm going to take it as 14 billion years because it fits in better with the maths. And so each day then is 2 billion years. And that means that by day 6, we have 12 billion years. And so if you think that I'm going to work 12 billion years before I get a day off, then you've got another thing coming. So really, if we have a look at the Torah being God's story and a book about us, it makes sense in our much diminished world that 7 days is a literal meaning, and that we work for 6, and we can have the 7th off. And so I think that kind of harmonizes those two views. So what is it about this 7th day? We're not giving too many specifics in its origin in Bereshit there. Just that God created a 7th day, and on it he abstained, not rested from his work, and declared it separate and holy. Holy in the sense, I think, that it means that on that day God's presence can be deeply felt. And because God doesn't need to rest, then this must be for us. And of course, Adam, humankind, then is a global entity. It doesn't involve any religions or nations. There's not a whole lot of people around. Now, the specifics were given to us, mainly at Mount Sinai. But we saw some of the effects of this in our exodus from Egypt. And, we've just finished Pesach, and so we were reminiscing about that and thinking about the journey through the wilderness to the promised land. And even on day 3, when we'd run out of the matzah that we'd taken for Egypt, we looked around and thought there's no food, and we started moaning bitterly, placed the whole blame, which we're very good at, onto Moses' shoulder. And with such lovely phrases as, are there not enough graves in Egypt that you, Moses, who really didn't bring us out, it was Hashem that did that, but, that you should bring us here, though we should die in the wilderness. And so we get the appearance of manna, or man, which literally, I think, means, what is it? Appearing in the morning like this miraculous dew on the ground, and each family, we would go out and collect a specified amount, which would be sufficient for that day. If we got greedy, as I'm sure most of us would do, we try and collect some more. It just turns into maggots. And then on the 6th day, we were told that we could collect double the amount. And, miraculously, the double amount and the extra that we collected didn't turn into maggots, but it was sufficient for the 7th day. If we went out on the 7th day and tried to collect any, then there wasn't there. And so this idea of not working, of actually separating the 7th day, came into being long before Sinai. And of course, at Sinai, and particularly after the construction of the Mishkan, we were told that there's certain work, malacha, that we couldn't do, which was really creative work. It was sewing takash skins together, or creating menorah, or even maybe sowing and reaping, because we were told that we would bring a meal offering, a libation of wine to the sacrifices, so we wouldn't be planting any vineyards either. And of course, as time has progressed, we've moved from an agricultural type environment, and we've moved into industrial, through the industrial revolution, enlightenment, and so these things need to be modified so that we can understand them for our life today. And strictly, yes, from the construction of the Mishkan, they developed 39 prohibited types of work that we couldn't do, mainly creative type of work. Um, and there are anomalies in that. We're not allowed to take things from one domain to the next, I think, unless it's with an Arab. But, if we were to get caught carrying our mattress from one domain to the next, maybe to some neighbours 3 doors down the road, then we're in trouble. But we could run up and downstairs with our mattress all day, and that would be perfectly acceptable. So we need to be sensible about these things and not get silly. Um, uh, but it's there for a purpose. And how you treat that, I think, is mainly up to you. From personal experience, maybe would help that my Shabbat obviously would be go to the synagogue on Shabbat morning. And we can't do that now, but our rabbi has very kindly produced an audio service that we can follow. And we really look forward to that. We sit down and we go through the service together, and then the rest of the day I manage to lock myself away in my study and I study Torah. Now, if you'd have said to me a while ago that this would be my Shabbat, I'd have thought you were crazy. Um, but I really look forward to that, and it's something which I would really miss if I didn't do, and it does keep me away from doing any creative work. Now, it might not suit you that, but it's something which really is a mindset that if you set your mind to it, I have found that giving up all the other things that we would like to do on Shabbat, or we used to do maybe, it's not such a stress. You can get silly, I think. I mean, throw things around the room and hope that one of them hits the on button to the TV, which really is creative work. We're saying that we're creating electric energy if we hit the TV on switch. But I guess if we throw it and it's an accident and it happens to hit that, um, yeah, maybe that's okay. Not for me. I enjoy my day of Torah study away from the TV, and the TV would only go on after Shabbat is finished. The other way is to sit on the remote control by accident, of course, and the TV might come on. You could say, "Whoa, look at that!" But I found that it actually takes amazing dexterity of the bottom to change channels. So don't watch the TV. Try it. It's not going to work, maybe, if that's your life, but it's a mindset, and the rewards are so great that I think it's worth thinking about. Now, if you're not religious or you're not Jewish, should you really be taking any notice of this? Well, the passage that we've just looked at in Bereshit is a global thing. There are no nations or religions or anything else. And so the whole of mankind being within Adam at that time, it applies to everybody. Now, in a practical sense, and I think we need to be practical sometimes to see how we can best do this. If we separate the two types of work, malacha and avodah, and think about not doing creative work on Shabbat, and avodah, which means service and worship and work and also slavery, depending on the context. And I think maybe if we looked at our everyday mundane work as being something akin to slavery, then maybe we could look at that and say, well, we're not going to do that. So, for instance, you enjoy playing golf. Is it okay playing golf on Shabbat? Well, for me, no, but if you're not a professional golfer, then maybe it's okay to play golf on Shabbat. If you sit at work looking at a computer all day, which it seems that most people do, don't use a computer on Shabbat. If you're a professional writer, don't write on Shabbat, and so on and so forth. The benefits will be apparent because it says that this day is separated, it is holy, you can feel God's presence on that day, and that cannot be a bad thing. So if we are to look at this in a greater detail, humankind was made for a day of rest. As I said before, God does not need to rest. It's God's book about us. It is there for us. And I think 6 days is enough to work. You want to do twice their work on Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday because you need the extra money for the 5th holiday of the year, there's a fair chance it might turn to maggots. If you do try and work on Saturday because you're also greedy and you think, well, I can make a little bit more money, it's not likely to turn out that well. So give it some serious thought. I understand that sometimes it's a little bit difficult. We as Jews have been given specifics, but we're also told that it's not just for us. It's actually from Abraham's time, who was told to be a blessing to the nations. And we are told that we should be a light to the nations. And the light we bring may be only a thimbleful, but a thimbleful of light can, in even the darkest of room, actually enable us to see some shapes and shadows, and so that it's worth doing. So I think we need to probably step up our teaching on it. We need to live it out a little better, so that the world can see that light that we can bring and move on from their constant striving, constant slavery to the work ethic, and have a day off. Until next time, shalom, and enjoy a day of rest.